right? If we start doing crazy stuff and wanting to hurt each other and being off and on the center line more of the sparring intent, that's where I think that line between Luk Sao and Chi Sao crosses, right? But in order for Chi Sao to be an effective Chi Sao session versus like a boxing or a Muay Thai session, we need to have an understanding of what the stickiness is first, right? And that's what the Luk Sao will teach us. So when we do the Luk Sao, it's
Luk Sao is rolling
hands, right? It comprises of two hands that are done opposite of each other, right? So one person starts off with something called a Fuk Sao, right? The Fuk Sao rests on a hand, and the contact point is the underbelly of your forearm. Again, and the idea of the Fuk Sao, is to be soft, so you're sensitive, right? You could be more sensitive. And I would say everything that we're doing right now, keep the softness in mind. We want to be soft and maintain your structure and frame, and be hard when you attack. You're practicing the sensitivity, so you could apply the suddenness of attack, and also use the sensitivity to be as effective as you can protecting the center line. Okay, that's the general principle of Wing Chun, Luk Sao. Okay, so I'm sitting on my Fuk Sao with Chris.
And you guys can come in closer too.
Yeah, if you guys want to see.
You guys so far, you can't see the details.
Yeah, no zoom in function here. So be on center, right, and try to have a forward intent. I'm on my Fuk Sao, and Chris is on a Tan Sao. My point of contact is the underbelly of my forearm, and Chris's contact point of the Tan Sao is on the outside of the Tan, right? So when we said before, contact for Tan Sao is outside, okay? And again, we're just explaining this because of the intention of the technique, but it's important to understand that we're pushing forward, right? There's always a subtle 1%, 0.5% forward intent. If I were to release my hand, Chris's hand should automatically come forward and attack me. That's what we're training for, okay? And then from that position, this one side of his hand, Chris will switch to a Bong Sao, and my Fuk Sao follows his Bong Sao for sensitivity. Again, there's no attack, there's no defense here. All we're doing for this exercise is sensitivity training, center line checking, and center line defense. What I mean by center line checking is that if Chris had nothing here, I should take a center, and he knows that he was weak in that defense. And likewise, if my center was crap, Chris should know to go forward and feel it, right? And this is where, again, you see some Wing Chun practitioners blindfold themselves, close their eyes. It's not to say, hey, I'm awesome and I could do matrix stuff, but it's the idea of losing visibility and using your hands just for sensitivity. If something were to happen, right, I should feel intent just to be able to, with my forearm sensitivity, okay? And on the other hand here, I'm doing the opposite of what Chris's hand is doing. And this is where the brain fart happens, right? And then the importance of this training is you're doing two things the same time with two different hands opposite. Okay, so I have a Tan Sao, he has a Fuk Sao, same intention that we mentioned before. I have a slight forward intent, and I go from Bong to Tan, and he's tracing me with his Fuk Sao. Okay?
This hand, my Fuk Sao, it's not moving either, right? It's just resting on his arm.
Yeah.
Okay? Just to feel that sensitivity, right? So if he took that away, if he took this arm away, I'd just be like this.
Yeah.
Okay. The other hand. So without a partner, the other hand would just be like, okay, this is my Fuk Sao. Sorry, this is my Fuk Sao. This is the other hand, right?
Yeah.
I'm just doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people I see, and when you first get started, you're probably gonna feel like you want to use both hands, but just know that the Fuk Sao is always just resting, right?
Yeah.
Trying to feel that sensitivity.
Yeah. And remember when we did the hand drills before, and for the people that I was able to talk with, we said that the elbows don't change when you do the Pak Tan exercise. This is the same idea, because you have one homing, waiting, be on standby on the center line, and again, you have the other one, to Chris's point, is moving to generate space on the center line, right? So again,
this hand is only moving because it's resting on top of his arm that's moving, right?
An example I like to use, and I mean the punching bag's the same concept, right? How our hands need to engage is that we're almost like a clothes on a clothes hanger, you know? Our bodies and our shoulders being the frame. Our arms are engaged with your opponent, right, or your partner, checking and monitoring the center line. And if anything is not within the zone, the forward intention should come in. Right? If he takes away anything, or I take away anything, if there's a position like this, then he did bad forward intention, right? We want to always maintain forward intention, maintain our stance. And what it basically looks like, so we go show them, what we're trying to get to is to a point where we're both always on, and it's either we're creating space to make sure that we're not on, right? Or we're checking, right? To see if we could be on or off the central line. So when I feel this intention, Chris is trying to hit me, but I'm trying to use my elbows and my central line defense the best I can to, without any retaliation, path of least resistance to block him. So if I'm pure on center, like this as an example, when we're doing T-cell, Chris would have to actually remove my hands to be able to hit the second punch if he wanted to engage in the attack, right? If I had really crappy central line defense and he created an entry, right, then he'd be hitting me right out of the gate.
Yeah,
right?
I shouldn't be able to get in to hit you if your arm is above mine.
Yeah,
you know,
this shouldn't happen.
I can always attack here. Yeah, this shouldn't happen. Jerry should collapse his elbow a little bit more.
Right.
So,
So in saying all this, when we do our looks out, initially, we're learning to make sure we have better center line than each other. And if we do have really great center line, we should be able to test it and check it. See, come in, he just told me to eat it, right? And if we both have amazing center line, then we have to insert wedges to remove each other from that defense so we could take advantage of the attack. Okay, so again, to start, find a partner, get into your stance, we'll come around and help. One hand is a hook, one hand is a tan, switch. While you do this, make sure that you have equal distance, fist and a half between your body and your elbows. Make sure your spine is stacked, the same intentions, right? Your knees are over your toes, and you're square to the person.
yeah.
Okay.
We didn't go into detail on the bong sao either, though.
No, that's okay. We'll just flow on it as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be a later thing. We're just teaching you how to, the movement, the basic movement of doing a look sao that leads into T sao. But then, if we have later classes, we can go into detail on specific hand movements like the bong sao, what the importance of it is.
Right.
Okay. So, this is what you're doing when you're doing the T sao. Bong, tan. The other hand is just resting.
Yeah.
Okay, as a fook sao.
Yeah. So just remember, a lot of the things that we're sharing that I would say just directly translates from Cantonese. When we talk about the bong sao and tan sao, if we understand the intention of the hand, it's less about what the hand can do, but is the direction of the energy that we're feeling for. All right, so just to start to Chris's point, make sure your tan sao and your bong sao transition, your elbow doesn't move. Right, that's your main thing you want to kind of keep an eye open for. And if you could do the structure again, the power and everything will just come with, right? Right, the door opens smoothly if the frame is perfect. If your frame is all effed up, then the door's not opening, right? That's the kind of this general concept when we talk about some of this stuff. Okay, so find a partner, square up, stand up your stance, start off one person, one hand on a fook sao, right? And then add the other hand, where you're doing the opposite of what your opponent is doing at this point, right? And for those who have done this before, we'll come around and just play a bit. Okay, so this is it.